Welcome to another episode of Dungeon Masters Guild Design Dash, everybody. Hi, I see in chat we're all talking about cookies. So I suppose welcome to the great DMs Guild Bake Off instead. Hello. If this is your first time tuning into Dungeon Masters Guild Design Dash, we are a fun monthly game show, fun for us, maybe not for the ones down there, where we challenge some of our top selling writers on DungeonMastersGuild.com to a design challenge where they have 15 minutes to write an encounter or a subclass or something, they don't know yet, about a secret theme. I am one of your hosts, Lysa Penrose. I am the community manager for Dungeon Masters Guild, the D&D Adventurers League, and social media manager for D&D. And I'm joined today by my co-host, Matt. Matt, who are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt McElroy. I'm one of the admins on DM's Guild and Storytellers Vault and other sites related in the Drive Thru RPG family. Beyond that, I'm also the operations manager for Onyx Path Publishing, and occasionally I do some freelancing and fun stuff like that too.
Yeah. So let's meet our contestants this week. Or this month, rather. Both this month and this week. Both are valid. Our first one, you voted him back after last month's episode, is Jacky Leung at Death by Mage. Jacky, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jacky, better known as Death by Mage on the internet, and I'm glad to be back. Thank you for inviting me back. I'm really excited for today.
Yeah. So, Jacky, you have been in the arena once already. What advice do you have for Emily and Steve, who are about to enter?
Stick with your first instinct and go with it.
All right. Good advice, not secretly trying to trip them up. Unless you are supposed to go with your second instinct.
I got toast out of it. I don't know.
Next up, we have Emily Smith.
Hey, I'm Emily Jea Smith from Twitter. I'm a writer for DM's Guild. Jacky and I just worked on the 12 Days of Midwinter project, which is 12 wintry themed adventures for your D&D campaign. I'm also a organizer in North Carolina. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Wow, it's really cool.
Nice.
I'm also an organizer, DM, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, we have folks in chat who are excited. _bad DM says, "Yeah, Emily, I know her."
Hi, Steven.
Oh.
Shout out.
So Emily, what did you do, if anything, to prepare for entering the Design Dash arena?
I stress baked about 3 dozen cookies, and I think that helped mentally prepare me for whatever is to come.
Excellent.
So. Yay, cookies.
I see Pete Cater in the chat says, I think the theme should be milk and cookies for Santa. Okay. So on Twitter, right before the show started, all the contestants started talking about cookies, and I almost changed the theme. But I do that every time I decided I want to stick with the theme that I had, but it was almost milk and cookies. We can chat. We can all talk about what the rubric is going to be, and if you want to put milk and cookies on it, you can. But last but not least, our third contestant is Steve Orr, also known as Jasper. Steve, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Steve Orr. I go by @AgentJasper on Twitter. I've been writing stuff up on the DMs Guild since last February, so coming up on a year now. My most popular product so far is a book called Puzzles, Predicaments, and Perplexities, which is a book full of puzzles that you can basically just drop in any adventure campaign. Volume 2 actually just came out a couple weeks ago, and I'll show my hardcover too.
So also available
Nice.
as print on demand.
That's great.
So thank you, Lysa, for your support and patience during that whole print and demand process. Also, right now, I've got out a holiday one-shot called How the Lich Stole Christmas. So if you're looking to run a one-shot around the holidays, it's built in a way that the encounters are scalable, so it really works for any level of party. So check that out. And lastly, shout out to Bill Petrino, who's a co-author on a lot of stuff I put out there. He's been a big part of the writing and design process of pretty much most of the stuff I put out throughout the year.
Oh, awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I love seeing on DM's Guild a lot of folks collaborate together. So yeah, shout out to Bill. So Steve, I have a question for you. What would you say is characteristic of your design style? What can people expect from you today?
So one of the things that I like to do in adventures and encounters is come up with multiple paths for solving something, and maybe not the most obvious thing, and try to include this also in the stuff that I write so that it's there for the DMs to kind of prepare for this. So what might seem like a combat encounter first, and somebody comes out charging at you with the sword, really there's an option for the party to make it a social encounter and work through it that way. And on the flip side, what might look like a nice friendly chat looks like it's going to be a social encounter. If things don't go well, it turns into combat. So, that's kind of depending on kind of the prompt and where we go today. Maybe work in the situation where there's different options for getting through the encounter that might not seem obvious at first.
Yeah, I know as both a player and a dungeon master who does a lot with modules, since I'm so involved in the Adventurers League, it's awesome having those different paths, or at least examples of different approaches. The players could do anything else, but from using those different examples, the dungeon master can figure out what they need to do. It's going to be interesting to see how this manifests in sort of a tight time challenge, though.
Yeah. You're never going to come up with everything the player's going to come up with, right? They're always going to throw something out there that you hadn't thought of. But if you give like 2 or 3 options, maybe the DM is a little bit more prepared.
Yeah, it can definitely set up the mindset of different players are going to come up with different solutions, and you can help the DM be prepared for a variety of game styles.
Absolutely. Yep. It kind of sets them up to expect and allow the players to just do whatever they like in their sandbox. Okay. We have done introductions. Is everybody ready? Everyone feeling a little bit anxious? Does everyone have their cookies ready? This is both for chat and the contestants. Okay. The secret theme for this month's challenge. I'm going to give you 15 minutes to design an encounter around the theme rhymes with Feast of the Moon. Rhymes with Feast of the Moon. Everyone is allowed to open rhyming dictionaries if you would like. But go ahead. Your time starts now. On my clock, it is 11:07 a.m. So we're going to call this at 11:22. I might even give them till 11:23, depending on how much past the minute we are. But yeah, so our theme is Rhymes with Feast of the Moon. I don't know if, Matt, does anything come to mind for you that you would rhyme it with? I would definitely open a rhyming dictionary.
Yeah, I would have to do that. I would have to do that first, but then I would probably spend most of my time exploring through different options, and then I'd be like, oh no, there's only 2 minutes left.
True. So it might just go, you might take Jacky's advice and just go with
pick one.
The first thing that comes to your mind, your first instinct. So for me, that's like Feast of the Loon. So maybe some sort of bird, a goose. A goose. Oh, let's see what Albatross Necktie in chat says. Yeast of the Foon.
Least of a spoon. I like that one.
Screaming Blood. Vast Chaos says Least of the Gloom.
Oh, that'd be a good Ravenloft one.
Bad DM says Beast of the Loon. Okay, all right, I'm feeling this. The Willy Boo says, all I can picture is the most irritating lycanthrope. So it could be Beast of the Moon. Oh, we've got a meowy kitty coming by.
Yeah.
Y'all have met Lucy and Clara a whole bunch of times, but now you're experiencing the lovely tale of my new kitty cat, Bean. Yeah, Bean.
I've got a couple of whiners behind me here.
They're very chatty. Meet Bean, everyone. More of the Penrose kitties. All right, Jade Vala says Beast of the Tune. Ooh. D4 Mint Joe says Beast with a Boon.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones here.
TK
yeah.
has linked to a rhyming dictionary, so thank you, TK.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, Beanie. We're gonna move ya. So Matt, do you have any favorite holidays in the Forgotten Realms or other like D&D settings?
I think the one I use the most is Halloween in Ravenloft.
Oh, ooh,
yeah. Usually if I'm running like a Mask of the Red Death style, where there's stuff drawn from Gothic Earth, where they have lots of options. But as far as the realms in particular, I'm not sure I have a particular favorite, but we do always celebrate like character birthdays or anniversaries of big battles and things like that instead. So how about you?
I would say probably Liar's Night. At least how we do it in the Adventurers League. I like creating like Halloween type little encounters that can be
Nice.
just dropped in. And I feel like it's a fun, spooky, but also silly holiday.
Sure.
So I really enjoy it. But right now, there are a lot of adventures going up on Dungeon Masters Guild for Midwinter. And also the
Yeah.
Feast of the Moon, which is sort of like a Christmas analog
Sure.
in the Forgotten Realms. So I actually collected 6 really fun Christmas wintry adventures for folks. So I collected all of the covers to show people.
Nice.
So the first one, Emily Smith was the major producer on. The 12 Days of Midwinter. Jacky contributed an adventure to that as well. And that one's really fun. It has, the song that has, like on the first day of Christmas, my true love
Sure.
came to me.
Yeah.
It's all 12 of those days, adventures inspired by the different gifts.
I love
it's
it.
really
That's
fun.
fantastic.
On the Big Dungeon show, Tuesday, I helped run the adventure inspired by 5 golden rings.
Nice.
There were like 5 different ring challenges you had to complete. And that was, gosh, just a blast. And there's also in the back an appendix with a midwinter trinket table and a midwinter wild magic table. And I love tables of any sort. Those are kind of my favorite. The next adventure I wanted to shout out on Dungeon Masters Guild is Last Christmas. So that one is not new this year. I think it actually came out last year, or maybe even the year before. But it comes with pre-gens that are all of your like typical villains. So it might be characters or mascots from other holidays who are trying to take down Christmas. And so I think that is just really fun and really silly, and it has a whole bunch of really positive reviews.
Awesome.
Yeah. Another new one this year is Spirit of the Season, which I talked about this on D&D Community, that it has a really cute creature in it called a snowbald, which is like an Arctic snow kobold. And they're trying to recruit someone to come back to their little plane, but they're looking for someone who's jolly and generous, and they think they found the person, but that person isn't imbued with the qualities they would think they would have. So the adventurers go on little missions to help teach the person
Nice.
these different values. And then there's also information in the appendix for playing a snowbald
Nice.
as well, which I just love them.
Last year I ran Winter Splendor by Ashley Warren, which is an Extra Life PDF that's on DM's Guild. So you get a fun adventure, and then you get to donate to a good cause while doing that.
That one has like a really different, like almost like Nutcracker sort of feel to it, with toys and really fun puzzles. That's a great one. Steve mentioned his How the Lich Stole Christmas adventure.
Yeah.
What he didn't mention is that all the box text is written in verse. Let me see if I actually have his little description one. You're a foul one, Mr. Lich. Your flesh smells like decay. For the crimes you have committed, there will be hell to pay when the heroes come to save Christmas Day. So
Fantastic.
Look forward to that. I hope it's a dungeon master who likes to sing.
I would have to recruit somebody to sing those parts.
And then my 5th adventure I wanted to share was there's Snow Place Like Home by Jonathan and Beth Ball. They do a lot of D&D duet adventures. So that's where you just have one dungeon master and one player. This adventure is written for, it can be a party or it can be a duet adventure. So if it's just you and one other person for the holidays, or one other person who's willing to play D&D with you over the holidays, or you want to like teach someone to play D&D in sort of more intimate one-on-one scenario, there's Snow Place Like Home is a great option for that.
I love that kind of stuff that can be either a big group or just one player, and especially like you said, as a teaching tool, get somebody to learn to play D&D for the first time.
Mm-hmm. They have a trilogy as well, and I believe the first one is called First Blush, or I maybe think, yeah, it's called First Blush, and that one's really good as both an intro adventure and a one-on-one adventure.
Nice. That's
And then
fantastic.
I was planning on only having 5, but then today Jacky published Triple Murder Most Foul, which is a turducken adventure. It shrieks, it bites, it breathes unholy gravy. Beware the rise of Queen Faldra. So this is a whodunit murder mystery adventure. Actually, let me just read this. A classic whodunit, where everyone has a possible motive, magical murder weapons, a missing roast, and a giant monster all wrapped around in delicious bacon. Bacon. It's high harvest tide in the realms. Let the celebrations begin. This just seems really crazy and insane. So I definitely
You're making me hungry.
Yeah, so we started talking about cookies. Now we're talking about this feast.
And bacon.
Let's see. So what else have we got going on at Dungeon Masters Guild? Right now there is the Teacher Kids to game sale. So if you go on Dungeon Masters Guild, we have adventures that can be tagged as family friendly or kid friendly. Like there's a Clunker's Guide to Heroes specifically for children, for example. And I think Anne Gregerson also has like a Little Heroes supplement that has other backgrounds and player options, but also tips on how to DM children at the table and how you might want to adjust the game. So those titles, a selection of those titles are all on sale for 25 to 50% off on dmsguild.com right now. So if you head over there, one of the banners at the top, you might need to hit refresh, but that should show up.
There's also a little text link in the top left corner.
Yeah.
You grab. There's a neat little PDF called Faction Missions for Young Adventurers that I just checked out earlier today. It's a great way of teaching really young fans how to use some real life and use game skills to start playing D&D. Mm-hmm. That's only 75 cents in the sale, so it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. And let's see. I'm going to check in on the clock. It is 11:17, which means we have approximately 5 minutes left. We're 2/3 of the way. How about we take a peek at some of their progress? Let me see. We're going to start with Jacky. All right. So Jacky has Encounter, rhymes with Feast of the Moon. It looks like Jacky has gone with Beast of the Loon, which I think someone in chat had also called out. Weregoose in all capital letters. Very excited about that. I just want to see what everyone's picked as. Oh my gosh, Emily with a wild card, Priest of the Spoon.
Nice.
I did not see that coming at all.
Yeah, these are great. These are going to be fun to ask questions about their design style.
Oh, okay. Steve had a number of ideas. Also had Priest of the Spoon. Fascinating. Would have been really interesting had they gone head to head with Priest of the Spoon there. Yeast of the Dune. Don't even know where that would have gone. But Beast of the Spoon. So we've got a loon beast and a spoon beast. And also a spoon priest. I'm like a little bit mad at myself for making this challenge. I brought this on myself.
Yeah. Maybe next time we either give points or take points away if they're borrowing from the chat instead of coming up with their own idea.
Ooh, yeah, we don't know who's spying on the chat here.
Right.
So chat, you know what their general themes are going to be based on their rhymes. Let's put together an arbitrary rubric that does not matter. Because at the end of the day, everyone on Design Dash is a winner. And then whoever you vote back on social media after is like extra a winner. But everyone's a winner because we're all here to have fun and design things and learn.
Chat, let's come up with either a reason to give points or take points away. We'll let chat come up with those ideas.
Curse of Seb says number of spoons. Okay. Number of spoons. I'm writing these down. I'm be really serious this time. Let's
Character
see.
must actually be playable.
Actually playable. I'd say like everything. Subclass might be depending on how you feel about what's playable or not. Subclass takes a lot of like exact wording. So
Right.
excluding that episode, all the rest have been encounter episodes, and I feel like all the rest have been playable depending on the level of the dungeon master, how much they feel they need to be prepared.
Yeah,
A lot of the times the dungeon master is winging it anyway.
The Wily Boo says audible groans are bonus points.
Oh my god.
Yep, that works for me.
Audible groans. Must include cookies and cream.
That is something I'm very curious, since we were all talking so much about cookies, how much of that bled into the design.
Yeah. So Matt, you said they shouldn't be borrowing from chat, but Albatross Necktie says, I mean, chat is pure chaos, so if you can wrangle that into a good idea, then you clearly are very creative.
Absolutely. That's why I was letting chat decide if we should add points or take points away for who's borrowing from chat. So.
Cursive Sam says pints of milk. I'm going to bundle that with this cookies and cream. Like maybe those can be two separate things. Cookies and then also milk and cream. Cursive Sebs also asks, will there be a Design Dash anthology? Now, not every Design Dasher ends up uploading their work. If they do, I'd love to create like a little bundle or collection of them. I know we do encourage that if they are going to release an edited version of their work, that they also include just a plain PDF export of their original design. So people can really see what it started as and what it ended up as after editing. And then we've also created like a little insignia that says as seen on Design Dash. So you can look out for that as well.
I think we're at time.
Yeah, it is 11:22. I'm going to meander my way over to the chat here, giving them those few seconds past the minute that they might have had. And I'm going to slowly type TIME. Time is up.
Time's up.
Yeah.
Cool. Whew.
That goes really fast.
Yes.
I told you it goes fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, the 5 minutes before we go live feels like an hour. And then the 15 minutes you're designing feels like 2 seconds.
I feel like I just ran a marathon. Like,
Yeah.
oh.
All right. Cursive Seb says bonus points for getting red highlights. That's funny. Yeah, we had the chat putting together a secret rubric for all of you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I
I heard that bit about where I might have pulled it from chat. Funny enough, the minute you mentioned rhymes with Feast from Moon, that was the first thing that came to my mind was Beast of the Loon.
Yeah, that's good. I see Weregoose, so I'm very excited. So let's start with you, Jackie. Walk us through your encounter.
Okay, so I want to feature the Weregoose because I've done a Were-Rabbit before, and so I thought Weregoose sounds like something just really fun, and for the last time anyone has been seeing me, I like to focus on what is the subject matter, and so the subject matter is about Weregoose, and so the first part of the adventure is you enter into a town, you hear rumors from the townsfolk about missing items, and it's like mundane things that have arbitrarily no purpose or value, or even just things that are of purpose of value. They're just seemingly gone. It's not like just a little bit, it's like a lot. And you're going to follow, so there's going to be this little bit of mystery solving where you're going finding clues, trailing it, and you're going to find things like feathers, footprints, maybe bite marks everywhere. And then the trail will eventually lead you out of town to a forest. And I do enjoy the naming of my act 2, the honkening, okay?
Oh no.
I couldn't help myself, okay? So you eventually, and then you're gonna have to figure out who's responsible for all this. And eventually in the forest, you're gonna find a group of were-ravens, and and were ravens are equally likely to have been stealing all these shiny trinkets, and then they're going to tell you, no, it's not them. They know who did it, and it was the werloons. And then you'll also find out throughout the adventure that there's a rivalry between the werloons and the were-ravens to build this ultra shiny shrine for their leaders.
Oh my goodness.
And they're gonna and then they're and apparently they've been trying to steal from each other as well. And eventually I get to the part where it says help resolve the rivalry, and there is a bit where it's like basically capture the flag.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because for Books of Summer, Book of Seasons, I did a volleyball mini game for my adventure I wrote, and so I want to write these little I want to incorporate this little mini game of like capture the flag, but it's capturing the icons.
Yeah. So give me an example of if you had an opportunity to dive in further into this mini game, what might it involve?
So I would want to set up boundaries of where the boundaries for all the sides are, and then I want to be able to include the ability for a random table for obstacles for either side. So it'll be 2 unique obstacle courses that everyone has. You can have either little short combat encounters, probably not, but I would rather probably do like a skills challenge or something like that, because there'll be a lot of traps. I expect lots of traps. I expect a lot of hidden dangers. And I really like the idea that if they take it, just like in most capture flags, everyone kind of knows who you are, and they're going to come looking for you. And so it's like a little beacon. And so now it's a chase to get to the other side safely and get back. And the thing is, for either side to kind of win this little rivalry, they have to bring it back to their base camp. So it's gonna be like that moment where it's like it turns from a little mini game into it's Helm's Deep all of a sudden.
Cool. So it starts as a mini game, and then it's almost like it's a chase sequence.
Yeah, it's a chase sequence.
Cool.
Yeah, so there's like I like that little bit of it, and then there's the option if they choose to, they could steal both the icons from them, because the icons are actually what give them their power to transform.
Oh, interesting.
So I included that bit about a hag maybe living residentially in the forest, just being annoyed with with these 2 groups of lycanthropes, and just going, I think it's high time that we finish this little game.
So when you're designing rival groups for the characters to encounter, what kind of effort or design do you put into making the groups seem equally terrible or equally good? Or like, how would you put the challenge? Because some adventures, it's very easy for the characters to pick a side. These are obviously the good guys or whatnot. So what kind of mindset do you set up to make them a challenging decision for the characters?
So I like doing I like actually using a Venn diagram sometimes, and I actually like to do like both sides, where things that they kind of mesh well, they're like likable qualities or even not likable qualities, and I like to just put qualities of each side, and I like to keep that so that way I can have clear distinctions of what each side looks like, so they're both unique and distinct, but be able to go, okay, there's certain things that overlap between them that can be good intersections for them, and then those you can extract from the middle for where you want to pull from for having those kind of dilemmas as a player, as a player and a character going, which side do I really want to support here? And I like always having the option of going not neither side.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of having an option for neither side.
Yeah.
So that hag is an interesting kind of wrench in the were creature's plans. The Willy Boo in chat recommends naming the hag Mother Goose.
It only seems appropriate.
All right, so you've got your mini game, stealing icons or parlay for peace and returning stolen goods, and then there's even an Act 3.
Yeah, and that's just mostly the little bit more because Act 2 is just kind of like the setup for all those choices, and then Act 3 is the actual actions of all those things resolving. So that's how I kind of wanted to break it up, just make it easier and just a little bit nice little neat package.
So if you had another 15 minutes after this, what would have come next?
I think I probably would have wanted to actually write in some bits about what kind of narrative choices the players would have, especially in Act 3 when it came down to either what to do with the icons they have, because now they have these icons. What do they do with it? Because even when they are going through that middle of that chase scene, they could just not return it to the other side. They could just go somewhere else with it. And then so it can go either way. So I want to be able to figure out what kind of narrative choices the players or the characters would want to make with these icons. Maybe it curses them while they have it, and so now they have to really get it back. And so, I want to explore those kinds of thoughts.
That's cool, having leads into what the DM could do next with everything. So what of this little encounter, what reflects your typical design style and approach?
For me, I will say my design style, memes, because apparently after noticing Triple Murder Most Foul, there's a lot of memes shoved into that adventure.
Oh.
I might have went a little too far on some of them. Like, if anyone's an Animaniacs fan, there might be a Chicken Boo reference somewhere in there.
That's old school.
Yeah, that's really old school. But I do like making my little pop culture references a lot. So and that was just the first thing that came to mind. So my design is always like a little bit of inspiration from pop culture. And then for my design, I do like giving options and choices when it comes to either multiple choices, and having a none of those as a choice. So I like multiple choice where the last one is none of the above.
I like that. I feel like I learned something today, always having none of the above as an option. All right. Any other questions for Jacky, Matt, or chat? If you have questions for Jacky or anyone as they're explaining their encounters, definitely feel free to throw those in chat and we'll read them. But for now, I think we're going to move on to our second designer, Emily Smith. Tell us about Priest of the Spoon.
Yes. So I also went through all of the rhyming dictionaries and panicked. And looking at all the words, I decided that I knew the most about spoons. So that was the best foundation to build from. So Priest of the Spoon essentially is set in Baldur's Gate, because I've got Baldur's Gate on the brain from running the hardcover and the adventures and all of that stuff. And basically what happens is there's this priestess of Suni, similar to Spoon but different, who goes missing in the call to action. And the characters have to go and look for her. And the last place she was seen was in the Wide, which is this big marketplace in the upper city of Baldur's Gate. So kind of just going and asking around is like the exploration, social heavy part of the adventure, where they're just going through the marketplace and talking to different vendors. I wrote down one of them. If I had more time, I would add a few more, and kind of like building this into the hardcover so that there's options to pull characters into like different contacts if you wanted to have them here, or have them like introduce different side quests. So that's kind of that section. So eventually they talk to enough of these market shop owners that they find out that this missing priest is essentially gathering ingredients for cookies. And once they've had enough of their social encounters, they realize that there is a bakery nearby that has a bunch of people pouring out of it, like all these line cooks and chefs, and they're all just angry, and they're in this mob outside the building, and kind of interacting with them. They realize that someone has taken over the kitchen inside of this bakery. And going inside, they find the priest that they've been searching for, who is essentially possessed by a sentient magical spoon.
Of course.
Nice.
Right, and is being driven to like take over this bakery and just like bake cookies continuously. So while they're trying to figure out like what to do with this spoon, this poor person, they are intercepted by Zariel cultists who are also searching for the spoon, because it turns out that this spoon, this magical spoon, actually has a archdevil that is imprisoned inside of it, who is driving whoever is attuned to the spoon to just bake cookies and possibly perform other nefarious acts that the characters can find out about if they are also able to wrest the spoon from this person and attune to it.
Awesome.
So there's like combat encounter, defeat the cult of Zariel, take the spoon, terrible things happen to you. You get some cool quirks like you think that you are the only person who can do anything right and you must take charge of the situation. And also you get some really great recipes out of it. So it's kind of a win-win.
That's amazing.
So I assume, I'm guessing that if you had more time to work on this, you'd include a couple of recipes as bonus content.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do a lot of Adventurers League, but I think that if I was writing this not for Adventurers League, I would probably include like some quirks for warlocks or clerics that attune to the spoon, that they could get some like interesting like uh packed interactions with that devil.
Eldritch Scoop instead of
Yeah,
Oh, I
Eldritch
like
Blast.
it.
Yes.
I want someone. I want eventually something named how the cookie crumbles. That's really what I want.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, the spoon of Orcus. That's hilarious.
So you connected this to the Baldur's Gate hardcover, and kind of as an intent as something you could just drop into an ongoing game. Is that part of your overall design style? Like you like interconnecting adventures, or did that just pop up today as a?
I think it's kind of a mix. Like when I'm writing adventures for DM's Guild, I'm usually designing one shots that are either setting agnostic or they're part of an overarching storyline. But like when I DM and I'm having to create stuff on the fly, which I think this is more similar to,
Sure.
it's kind of just like, all right, I know there's this overarching city. What can I punch into it to kind of like add more flavor, add more hooks, add more like interesting characters, and kind of just throw spaghetti at the wall to see what the players are really interested in and just grab onto that and run with it. So
Cool.
Yeah.
You said add more flavor, which is now, no, I didn't mean it like that, Matt. I didn't mean it like a pun. And I'm just wondering if you can call out like certain spots in the encounter that you have written for us where you've tried to add in that like little extra oomph.
Yeah, so I think that the like quirks for the magic item are a little bit flavorful. The interactions with the merchants, of which there is one dude because I don't have that much time. But kind of like just creating really wacky NPCs in that section that can kind of be like off the wall and potentially act as informants for the characters later, or quest givers, or X, Y, and Z.
I like
just,
that the Tabaxi you really gave like a Tabaxi type name as well. I also really like Tabaxi as food shop owners, just because I'm so sure their hair gets into everything.
the full body hairnet. It's the only way to go.
I just fear a Tabaxi in a bar because it's just the tendency to just push every glassware over the railing.
Yes.
Like that's how they serve the drinks. They put it on the table and then they're just like,
I feel like there always needs to be one Tabaxi in an adventure somewhere, just in case.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Hey, chat, do you have any questions for Emily? And as you all take a minute to catch up with the time delay and ask those questions, I just wanted to let Emily that you've pinged 2 things on our secret rubric. There is 1 spoon in this adventure, so you've earned 1 spoon point.
Yeah.
Also, you implied that there were cookies. So there's cookie points as well. And you have implied points.
I'll take it. I'll take 1 to 2 solid/implied points.
Albatross Necktie first says, you go to a Tabaxi shop because you like the taste of cat hair. But then they ask a question of what level would you imagine this little adventure encounter being set at?
Since I'm designing, or I was designing in mind for the hardcover, it would probably be tier 1, because that's when they're really involved in Baldur's Gate and Cult of Zariel and all that kind of stuff. I could see it being level 2, but it's also a little bit like silly, wacky, and cultists, unless you make them like really souped up stat blocks, aren't that threatening / wandering around the city at tier 3 or 4. So
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I also feel like, if you'll all pardon me for the plug, but it is Dungeon Masters Guild Design Dash. But Dungeon Masters Guild is the cool thing is it's the one place where you could say, well, I want to write something that builds off of D&D's official book. You're able to use that intellectual property of theirs and be like, well, I'm setting it in Baldur's Gate. It's very related to the book. I'm borrowing these cultists from the book, and it's part of the story. You can just drop it in. DM's Guild is the one place where you can do that. So it's awesome. All right. Third in line, Steve. I see you have a number of options here, but you went with Beast of the Spoon.
Beast of the
All
Spoon.
right, so
yes.
potential other spoon points. So we'll see. Walk us through this.
The title, it's got to be kind of half a point at least.
That's true. You do have at least a point. Yeah.
Okay. So what's happening here is it's a small town. They call it the town of Hooval. There's been a mysterious being sneaking into kitchens during the middle of the night and stealing baking ingredients. And the town guard and the citizens haven't really been able to catch this thief or really even identify a pattern. And the only clues left behind was been these footprints that look like a creature left behind in some spilled flour during one of the thefts. So as they were in the kitchen rummaging through and stealing spoons and cookie ingredients, they left some footprints in some of the spilled flour. So I did put a story hook in here. This is probably one of the things I probably could have left out for the sake of time, but just saying the way that the adventurers got here was they traveling through the wilderness and the storm hit, and we're going to go with a winter theme, right? So we'll say that they would sought out in the nearby town, and the townspeople were like, "Oh, hey, you guys look like you're capable and carrying weapons. Maybe you can help us with this baking goods thievery problem." So the next part where we get into here is a little bit of solving the mystery and trying to figure out, okay, well, where is the beast going to strike next, right? Because the townspeople and the guards, they've been after it for several weeks now, maybe even a couple of months, and they haven't been able to find it. Like as soon as they think that maybe they're out of the woods and they're no longer going to be attacked or have things stolen by this creature, boom, then again they hit. So I kind of did this quickly, but essentially there's going to be two different things or three different things that are going to try to help them identify where the beast is going to attack next so that they can deal with it. So the first thing is kind of be like, well, when do they attack? And these would be the kind of things, maybe if I had a little more time, I would have come up with some nice tables and stuff, talk about like the DCs and the different skill checks and everything. But doing things like investigating the scenes of the crime or looking at the footprints in the flour or talking to the townspeople using investigation checks, nature checks, insight check, perception checks are going to eventually reveal a couple things that will let them to try to say, pin down, okay, here's where we think the beast is going to attack next. So some of the details I put in there, which they would learn over time through these skill checks were, well, it seems that the pattern is there's certain days in each month when the thefts are happening. It would be the 2nd, 7th, 17th, 22nd, and 29th dates of each month. Then the question is, well, where? So there's two different components to that. One is on the odd dates, they've hit houses on Main Street, and on the even dates, they've hit houses on Broadway. And then the last component is on the single-digit dates, they've hit the east side of each street, and on the double-digit dates, they've hit the west side of each street. So basically, if they get those three items, those three clues that they kind of discover through their investigation and the skill checks, you can basically say, okay, well, what date is coming up next? Which one of these dates is coming? All right, well, the 22nd is approaching, and it's an even date, so they're going to hit Broadway, and it's a double-digit date, so are they going to hit the west side of the street? So let's camp out and kind of surveil the west side of Broadway on that night, and hopefully we can catch the beast. So that's kind of the investigation part of it and how they get to the encounter. So now the encounter. Sure. Yep. Yeah. Right. So I think I don't think it would be a handout. Maybe for the DM they would have a table to make it a little bit more nicer and organized for them. But really, it would be talking to the NPCs, visiting the scenes of the crime, right? Talking to the towns guard, talking to the people that live there, and really like kind of when I this is almost like a puzzle type thing, right? So this is kind of my wheelhouse a little bit. What I like to kind of combine is the players can think of things, but the characters can think of things, right? Make the players themselves think. How would they go about kind of figuring out where this creature is going to hit next, but also allowing the characters themselves to figure it out by saying, oh, you know what? I'm a cleric that's really good at investigation. Let's go check out the scene of the crime. Let's go check out that flower that has the footprint in it. Or a ranger can take a look at the tracks. So I think it would come out kind of organically through interactions with the NPCs, as well as kind of visiting the spots where the creature is hit.
Okay, that's really cool, because I feel like the tough part about mystery adventures is how can you make it more than just simply rolling an investigation check and then just getting the answers. And a lot of folks will do that through puzzles, which you've sort of done here, but then even getting the pieces of the puzzle you have to investigate for. So I think
Yeah,
that's really clever.
sometimes it'll take interesting NPCs to engage with the characters in a different way. So I assume if you had more time, you would have offered up some of those
Yeah.
NPCs a bit more detail. Did you have any particular in mind when you were writing this up?
Yeah, I mean, definitely somebody like the head of the town guard, right? He's frustrated. He can't be able to solve it. He's collected as much as he can. He's happy for help. So he's basically solving, giving you as much information as he possibly has. So he'd be a good source of information. Or, the really, really eccentric, woman that keeps all her baking things in very specific places in very perfect quantities and can give you got a lot of information about what is missing and why. And, so yeah, that's definitely would be something near the top of my list that if I had more time would be building out the specific NPCs and the locations and kind of what you can learn how. And Lisa, you kind of mentioned a good point about, mysteries. Sometimes it just comes down to rolling and rolling and rolling until you get the right numbers big enough to reveal the stuff. I think one of the things that's important to do to avoid kind of getting stuck, you don't want them getting stuck because they rolled crappy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I rolled a bunch of 3s, and so I failed all the checks. So I think it's kind of important to kind of build in a little bit of a gradual, what's the word? Not making it easier, but basically don't let them get stuck and say, okay, and I've done this in all the puzzle books, really. If you're getting stuck, here's a different thing you can do. Here's an easier DC and a different approach so that you get them unstuck, right? Because nothing more frustrating than a player saying, my rolls suck. I've done everything I can. And I guess I lose the game. Like, well, what now, right?
Oh no.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's definitely the kind of thing that I would include with more time.
Great, awesome. Let's move on to the next section, confronting the beast.
So confronting the beast. So once they've actually figured out where it's going to attack and they set up their stakeout and the beast appears and it's, this big creature with this big fur back and head and claws and feet. And as they approach it, depending on how they approach it, they might soon realize that it's not actually a beast at all, but an old woman in these really, really heavy, thick furs. That depending on how the characters kind of approach it, may not be all that intimidating. She's definitely like sneaking around and stealing stuff. But the question might be, well, why? Now, depending on the party and how the particular players react, they might not care, right? They might just shoot first and ask questions later. Yes, I took care of the beast. Mystery solved.
Yeah, in chat, Velasi says, pepper her with arrows. Oops.
I mean, that's one possibility. But the other possibility, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about, giving the DMs and the players and the characters kind of different avenues of dealing with these encounters. What if they don't shoot first? What if they, say, let's sneak in for a closer look and they see it's an old lady? So there's the opportunity for the social interaction and to kind of talk to her and see what her deal is. So her deal is she was a baker in a nearby village that burnt down. And she's a little on the older side. And was, didn't really have any family around. Was a little traumatized from the village burning down, and essentially has been living in the wilderness on her own as kind of a hermit, and has used these bear cloaks to, keep her warm, obviously, but also to kind of fend off any kind of threats that she might encounter while she's living in the wilderness. And she got the urge. It's been in her nature to just be a baker. That's what she's done her whole life, and to continue that hobby, or really her, more than her hobby, her occupation, she's decided to start sneaking into town and stealing ingredients from the homes to bake cookies, because that is her life goal achievement. So, I mean, if they don't pepper her with arrows from the start, there's the opportunity to have this social interaction and understand her tragic backstory and potentially have a happy ending where she returns the baked goods. The villagers give her a job at the local bakery, and she makes cookies for everybody, and said everybody lives happily ever after.
Yeah, if you had more opportunity to flesh out the beast, what would you do? And what would happen? So she's hostile when confronted. If they decide to try to fight her, is she a commoner? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so that was actually one of the things I was thinking about too. If I had time, how would I stat block her, right? Because if she's a commoner, like one arrow is going to take her out,
Yeah.
and they're not going to have much of an opportunity to really realize, like, oops. So yeah, I mean, I would probably give her a stat block, maybe make the bear furs, give her a little bit more, AC, so that they don't one shot her, and present this opportunity for her to kind of surrender, right? So that it's not just a oops, I filled her full of arrows. What did we do? Kind of thing. But an arrow here, an arrow there. Oh, the skin for the bear skins fall away. They see it's an old lady. Oh, please, I didn't mean anything. My village burned down. And that kind of opportunity for her to surrender, let's say.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't mean that the characters are going to accept their surrender, but definitely build that in an opportunity so that she's not hobo murdered.
Yeah, I see chat talking about all the murder hobo potential.
Yeah.
You see a dark, furry, bear-like creature. We unload on it with all our archery might. Party is tried for murder. And I see you in the chat, Jackie. Jackie said, "Murder is the bad ending." Yeah. I think it'd be cool if she were some sort of like bred druid, since she's gone off into the woods.
Yeah, that's cool. Actually, when Jackie made the hag voice too, I thought hag was a possibility
Yeah,
too.
hag would be cool.
I like making high voices. I can't help it.
Chat, I'm interested in what you all think. The beast of the spoon ought to be a revenant. What, Willy Boo? Oh, I suppose that kind of makes sense. Yeah, because she's upset about her village. Evil baker baking a gingerbread army in the woods.
Speaking of gingerbread army, that's an option.
Yeah, and that's so many cookie points.
Oh yeah.
Depending on how big your army is, which I guess I will call out. Steve also had, I don't think a physical spoon, but
It's in the title.
But in the title, the word spoon, and I hadn't thought of that it might be the appearances of the word spoon, but then also implied cookies. So we've got sort of a tie there with Emily and Steve on the spoons and cookies rubric. But Steve, so what would you say in this encounter was typical of your design process? I see you actually went through and you have a background and an adventure hook. Emily did as well. Very structured. Do you usually do that? Do you usually start out with an outline?
I always start out with an outline. Even if I start writing the final encounter first, I'll have the outline there. And even if it's like encounter 3 to TBD, just like because I know how I want to pace the adventure and how many encounters I'll have, always start with an outline.
All right. What was it like designing in 15 minutes versus your usual process?
Oh, it was hectic. I got like the final word typed as I put my headphones on and I heard you say time's up. It flies by, but I was kind of trying to pace myself. I was typing so fast I kept making mistakes. It was screwing me up. I was like, I got to type faster. I was like backspacing like crazy because I was typing too fast. So I mean, process wise, it wasn't too different, but it was just super condensed and intense.
Mm-hmm.
So one of these times I'm gonna go into people's documents and make changes while you're writing them.
Oh no!
But
Sorry.
Lisa has vetoed that every time so far, but it's coming.
Matt goes rogue. I'm curious for Emily as well. This being your first time in the Design Dash arena, what it felt like designing in 15 minutes. What in your process was the same? Because I noticed you also had a lot of structure. At the beginning, like your overview, your call to action, very Adventurers League.
Yeah.
And what was different because it was a 15-minute thing?
Yeah, I started writing for Adventurers League, so I'm very used to like, this is a 1 hour bonus objective and this is this. So I think I just inherently start with that. I skipped a lot of detail. I think overall my design structure was the same in that I was like, oh, no, okay, I have to have call to action, part 1, part 2, part 3. Those have to be in there. And then everything else, because time was short, I kind of just skimmed over details in certain sections. So like in the part with the marketplace, I started diving in and like writing out all the NPCs and like writing out information they could get and what the checks would be. And then I was like, this is way too detailed. I'm going to jump ahead and keep going. So I basically just did like a really high level once over, which is much less detailed than I would normally do, hitting all the sections, and then was going to go back and add more detail after 15 minutes. But yeah,
Nice.
overall pretty much the same process, I think.
Interesting.
Just-
Yeah,
just-
but
just
condensed,
super- yeah.
squished.
Yeah.
Matt, did you have any last questions for Steve? Chat as well, if you have any questions.
I'm apparently making future contestants cry in chat right now. So so now I have to do that to somebody in one of these episodes because I can't make a promise and not deliver. So,
Uh-oh.
but I guess for all three of you, one of the things, try and think back to right when you got the prompt. What was your first like fear or idea of how to solve that? Like somebody said they went to a rhyme link on the web or something like that. So what was your process of how do I start with just this simple prompt?
So yeah, first thing I did is I was like, all right, it's got to rhyme. So I Googled what rhymes with moon and what rhymes with beast, was it?
Feast.
Feast.
Feast. Yes. So first I did moon, picked spoon, and then I Googled what rhymes with beast or feast, and then I picked something that made sense with a spoon, which narrowed it down significantly. And then after that, I just was like, okay, I got to come up with some kind of adventure that makes sense, that it has a spoon at the center of it. And then it kind of just like devolved from there. So it was basically locking in the title and then just like picking the pieces off of that.
Mm-hmm.
My first reaction was pretty much panic, but then after that, very much the thing. I was first I tried to come up with the rhymes off the top of my head, and I was like, all right, that's only like 4. I got to get more than that. So then I went to the Googles and found like 2 more. So I was like, okay, we got to get writing. We can't spend 10 minutes on rhyming.
Yeah. I spent like a solid 4 minutes on rhyming, and then I realized 4 minutes had gone by, and then I panicked a little bit, and then I started.
Yeah, I write poetry a lot, so I actually have a mental recollection of a lot of rhyming words. So moon is a common one, and so is feast. So I just instantly knew what I needed and what I wanted.
Nice.
Did anyone have early ideas that they vetoed and then changed, or did you just take Jacky's advice and just run with the first thing?
I vetoed some ideas.
Any you're
just
willing
like
to share?
I don't think any of them were fleshed out enough to be like really interesting. I think that the second contender was instead of spoon, it was dune. So having something to do with like a dungeon crawl inside of a dune that was like a collapsing library that had sand pouring in. The characters would have to
that's
race
cool.
out during that time.
Like
That's
that.
interesting.
Like
Yeah,
that.
which is really cool, but also kind of like hard to write a high overview of because it's gonna be like a lot of puzzles and traps and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I kind of was just like, I don't think I can do this in 15 minutes. Spoon. People like spoons. Everyone likes spoons. Gonna go with that idea. So
Nice.
yeah.
Steve, I saw that you had other potential rhymes in your document.
I almost went with something using the word yeast, and then I vetoed that pretty quickly. It would have been a baking thing too, but
Yeah.
yeast
Yeah.
of the spoon is probably too much baking. So
I think we were on the same wavelength because I was also looking at yeast and I was like, the yeast of the spoon. It's not.
All right, we've got 2 minutes on the clock, so that means we are going to wind down this episode of Design Dash. Before we do outros, I just want to remind everyone to head over to @DMS_guild In the minutes after this episode ends, I'm going to put up our Twitter poll where you can vote for Jacky or Emily or Steve to come back next episode and face 2 new Design Dash challengers. So let's remind you of who we had on the episode today. Everyone, let us know who you are, where folks can find you, if there's any new products, adventures you want to plug. And we're going to start going backwards. So we're going to start with Steve.
Hey, Steve Orr. You can find me at Agent Jasper on Twitter. And I'll plug Puzzles, Predicaments, and Perplexities too, as well as How the Lich Stole Christmas. I think I heard Lysa singing the rhyme from that as I had that around my neck.
I love that the box text is in verse. That's so fun.
Yeah, cool. So if you need a holiday one-shot, check that out. Coming out in 2020, I have an adventure in volume 4 of Eat the Rich. So Eat the Rich is out there. Anti-capitalist adventures is up on there. Check that out. And I'm working with Bill on something kind of different for 2020, which I don't want to give away spoilers, but it's basically like a supplement for campaigns that's going to add these extra layers of complexity to it. Should be pretty interesting. So thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Yay. Thanks for coming. Emily.
Yeah, hello, I'm Emily. You can find me on Twitter at Emily JEA Smith. You can find me on DM's Guild and anywhere Adventures League, probably hovering around in a corner. Jacky and I both worked on 12 Days of Midwinter, which is available on DM's Guild right now. It's got over 30 community.
Oh no, Emily froze.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose her? Oh, well, she looks very stern right now. So we'll hop over to Jacky while we wait for Emily.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jacky, better known as Death by Mage. You can find me at Twitter at Death by Mage. And I will say that I just released today the Triple Murder Most Foul, which is a Turducken meets Clue adventure. So have fun with that. Also, it has high replay because you can change up who's your murder weapon and where the murder happened. So have fun with that. And upcoming for 2020 is can I talk about it, Lysa?
Yeah. Oh yeah, go for it.
Upcoming in 2020 in January is going to be Forged in Battle, which is a new supplement featuring combat maneuvers, new subclasses, and also a new base class, including also alternative rules for things like honor and duels.
Yay! Awesome. We did drop Emily, so I am redoing the windows real fast so that Matt can say goodbye. Matt.
On Twitter, I am MMM666, and for the next several days, I am doing giveaways on my Twitter account of PDFs and ebooks from a bunch of different publishers. The challenge is you have to nominate someone other than yourself that's done something cool or fun in the tabletop community this past year. So check it out and nominate some people.
Awesome. And I have been your host, Lysa Penrose. Actually, my new Twitter handle is at Lysa Penrose, so I've got to fix that on the overlay here. Boop. At Lysa Penrose, please. Catch us on Dungeon Masters Guild Design Dash every third Friday of the month. And stay tuned because we've got Rivals of Waterdeep, Season 4 Marathon happening starting right after this show throughout Saturday. And then Sunday is their current season finale. Super exciting. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us in chat. Design Dash is always super fun. Thank you, contestants. Thank you, Matt. And we will catch you all next month. Bye, everybody.